Oh, if I only know HTML and CSS, does that make me a real software engineer? The quick answer is no. For the rest of this video, I'm going to give a really good argument as to why that is. So I'm not going to leave anybody hanging just yet. For starters, software engineers solve big, complicated problems that I don't think only knowing CSS and HTML will call for. You see, software engineers either are proficient at a small stack of programming languages, or they have gone extremely deep on one such as Python or C#. And because of their range and depth of knowledge, they are highly recruited and sought after by big corporations, existing companies to solve existing technical challenges, or play the Tony Stark futurist, solving challenges that don't even exist yet. You could probably call yourself a software engineer if you were solving complicated programming challenges only knowing HTML and CSS, but I guarantee those challenges, problems, whatever you want to call them, usually require a higher range of skill and knowledge for other coding languages that are more complicated. However, your knowledge of HTML and CSS does allow you to play a different role, and that is in the area of creativity. Most of your high-level problems that call for HTML and CSS knowledge usually deal with web design and user experience issues. If I'm honest, seasoned programmers and coders in this profession do not consider HTML and CSS serious programming languages that create frameworks or any architecture for applications. The two-part web development trinity is considered like scripting languages, or what I like to call design languages, because they focus much more on the look and feel of a website. I hate to sound negative or pessimistic, but you could really create some really sophisticated technologies with other programming languages, the languages that these companies such as your Metas, your Amazons, whatever, call for, your AI, machine learning. You create some really great things with those technologies, but honestly, with HTML and CSS, you're doing more cosmetic surgery. If that makes sense. Now, granted, CSS has become more layered over the years, evolving into things such as Sass and Less, which apply standard programming conventions such as creating variables and functions to the CSS you actually write. So this simplifies things, allowing you to write clean CSS code, but even with that, it's going to add a level of difficulty to producing style sheets, especially if understanding the logic of programming is going to be complicated for you. So learning Sass and Less may still be another challenge if you're trying to just only learn HTML and CSS. Now, HTML has and is becoming more structured, so elements are more native to the internet. Doing this was necessary since the downfall of Flash Online, which really allowed for a lot of creative interactivity over the years. I mean, come on, something had to fill that void left behind good old Macromedia Flash. And don't get it twisted, Adobe's forgotten darling is responsible for a brevity of internet goodness such as earlier meme animations and indie gaming. I mean, come on, man, Super Meat Boy wouldn't even be possible had it not been for Flash's earlier years. And gaming sites such as Newgrounds and developers like Armor Games hosted a library of early Flash titles that became classics in their own right. HTML5 introduced Canvas years ago, but it is still not quite where Flash was at the peak of its gaming mecca. Yet it is slowly filling that gaping hole left by Flash since the main browsers have shut it down. Now, even with these sophisticated additions, that still does not qualify you to call yourself a software engineer. Another question that can be asked is, can you build standalone software using HTML and CSS only that supports its own functionality without the help of JavaScript or any behavior-based programming language? I mean, let's be serious. Can HTML and CSS put the software in software engineer in terms of building standalone software that can be bought by a user to help them solve a problem? Usually the answer for that question is no, but if you could prove me wrong, I like to see it somewhere in the comment section. Now, I have a better solution. Rather than trying not to improve and scale your knowledge base based on learning another language so you can identify as a software language, just stop trying to call yourself a software engineer altogether. It's like fitting a square peg into a round hole. Real talk for a second. Why do you only want to limit yourself to only knowing HTML and CSS? Some of the greatest rewards provided by life is by really doing some of the hardest challenges task assignments ever that could really stretch your ability, stretch your skill level. So why only limit yourself to only knowing HTML and CSS when you could actually go out and you could practice with JavaScript? You can learn Python. These things are being adopted. You have to see what companies are actually calling and requiring you to learn, because they're building their technologies, their artificial intelligence on these things. What do you need to learn? If it puts you outside of your comfort zone, so be it. That's the name of the game right now. Don't box yourself into this thing called just basic front-end development with just those two scripting languages. Now, if it's a thing of programming insecurity because you feel like you're not smart enough to learn some other programming language, I beg to differ. I think it's a matter of the amount of work that you're actually willing to put in and the studying, the actual practicing of coding and programming until you actually, something in your brain just snaps and you just completely understand it. You have a light bulb moment. It's going to take work to actually achieve that, but in the end, it's going to be well worth it. And not only are you going to be rewarded in terms of, financially, you'll obviously be rewarded, because if you can stretch yourself beyond that, you're going to financially be rewarded. You have to. And not just financially, but opportunity wise as well, because if you're expanding your skill base, you're either getting deeper with one programming language, one more serious programming language, a much challenging one. All right, you're either getting deeper or you're spreading wide, but you're getting proficient at the things that you're actually spreading wide on. So you can actually be more proficient at HTML and CSS if you decide to go deeper, but that's going to call for you to learn things such as Canvas and learn things such as SAS and LESS, and how do you do some of the most amazing things and what problems can you solve. HTML and CSS is only as good as the amount of problems you can actually solve with those two languages. The best solution for this conundrum is to simply identify as a front-end developer or an HTML developer at the very best, not a software engineer. Front-end developers manage the look and experience of a website through front-end code, which is HTML and CSS. It's built on the back of those scripting languages. There is no software engineering going on in the same scope as actually building programs, frameworks, and libraries. However, just because you're not doing those things doesn't mean that you aren't valuable. As a matter of fact, if you only know HTML and CSS, you can make a good career in management as a website manager using your abilities to maintain and update websites as needed. And I actually help you out with having an illustrious career as a website manager right here in this video.